you went under the wheels.
Perfected.
Welcome to Under the Wheels. I'm Matthew.
And I'm Gabe.
And in today's episode, we're selling out and talking about theme park attractions with Spider-Man No Way Home. Controversial. Cutting edge.
I like how Scorsese is still getting dragged on Twitter by like nerds over what he said.
I hate to say it, but like I think about it anytime I enjoy one of these movies. I'm like, it's like the whole like when you talk about Black Widow and you're like, almost all these Marvel movies are like at least a witness because they have sort of like the same homogenous structure, but like they're not telling anything deep. They're just enjoyable. And I think about the Scorsese quote about like cinema and the cinema of attraction and like theme park rides. And I think of Mission Impossible Fallout as being like the perfect example of like, it's okay if it's just a thing that is like big set piece moments connected by a little bit of plot that's executed well and not seen as like a cinematic marvel. You know, I'm sure Christopher McQuarrie would argue like, oh no, I am making cinema, but his movies definitely tend more towards like the big box office sort of like, we know that you're just connecting action scenes together, but you're doing it so well that we don't care and this is fun.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's fine. And that's like definitely like part of my wheelhouse of movies.
I mean, yeah, they should still exist and they have a place, but like, let's not pretend that they're like they mean anything.
I mean, it's like sometimes, and actually this is directly related to Spider-Man No Way Home, since Spider-Man, you know, as a character is kind of one of the few characters that brought any sort of, or at least started the rumblings of sort of like the cinematic praise of superheroes with like Spider-Man 2.
Yeah.
Which I'm sure we'll get into a little bit of discussion of like Spider-Man 2 and Spider-Man No Way Home and talking about our own personal experiences with these Spider-Man movies. But
yeah,
you know,
well, Spider-Man's everyone's favorite superhero. It's like, I think I remember that decades ago Sony was offered the film rights to the entire Marvel roster for $25 million. And they just took Spider-Man and paid $7 for him. And when asked why, they were like, Spider-Man is everyone's favorite superhero. No one cares about the rest. And they were kind of right.
At least at that time, especially at that time, I should say.
Yeah.
Especially at that
I guess
time.
the other added piece to this is like we talk about how these Marvel movies don't really mean much of anything. This one is weird because it has like tons of metatextual meaning plastered onto it.
Yeah. This one is just a weird, like, quote, Marvel, unquote, movie in general. Mm-hmm. For a lot of different reasons. I have some ideas of places we can go if we need to that don't even require spoilers until the point where we do need to spoil it. Because I think in order to talk about it to the length I want to talk, we do have to get into spoilers. So,
well, yeah. I mean,
obviously.
You say anything about the movie, you're spoiling something.
The movie opens. Spoiler! Let's do it like we've been doing. So, what do you give Spider-Man No Way Home?
I would actually, I think it would be like a high witness potential. Like nudging up on low shiny kind of territory. I thought it was really good. I liked it quite a bit.
And you haven't, to put it into context, you have not seen the other John Watts, Tom Holland Spider-Man movies, right?
No.
You did not see Homecoming. You did not see Far From Home.
I have not seen either of those. I've seen like bits of Far From Home, and they were painful to sit through.
Yeah.
I generally hate Tom Holland's Spider-Man. I find him obnoxious in everything he shows up in. When he died in Infinity War, I'm like, oh, thank God, he's out of the Marvel Universe. And then he came back. I'm like, fuck, he's still in the Marvel Universe.
Did you find him more tolerable in this?
Yeah, he was actually genuinely charming in this movie. I don't know what changed.
So here's the main difference. Actually, just to give you mine is, I think the beginning of the first third of the movie is a witness It's like a low witness, and then the last third of the movie is shiny and chrome. I will go watch the last third of this movie over and over.
Yeah.
So with that said, the difference is that the people, I think like the writers of Captain America, because the writer who did all the Captain America movies, the two writers also did Infinity War and Endgame. And they have an idea of how to write Spider-Man as this sort of like I don't know, like Samwise Gamgee from Lord of the Rings, the book, where he's just like, like, oh, Mr. Stark, Mr. Strange, blah, 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 blah. Like, I'm going to make references and make him seem old. And like, I'm such a good guy, or like, I'm such a goody two shoes. And in like the other two Spider-Man movies, he's very much like a fully fleshed character, but the two don't necessarily mesh, because a lot of the time in the John Watts Spider-Man movies, he's not making all of these like really weird references to 80s movies. So you might like him better in those movies, but I will also say you don't need to see those movies if you watch this one, which we'll get into as well. So you said you thought it was a high witness bordering on low shiny?
Yeah, well, it's like all of the stuff that I would normally find annoying, like just Tom Holland's Spider-Man interacting with characters from his universe. I liked the character dynamics that they've set up. I like the chemistry the three amigos have, him, Zendaya, and the kid who plays Ned Fields.
Jacob Batalon.
Yeah.
Batalon. Jacob Batalon. Yeah, the guy who plays as.
Yes.
They race casted Ned Leeds in the thing. He's like an old white reporter dude, and in this he's just like this like goofy Filipino crackpot.
Yeah, I like the three of them together. They're a lot of fun. Yeah. Aunt May and Happy Hogan, they're whatever. I could take or leave them.
Actually, I like Jon Favreau usually. He's always usually pretty solid and grounded. So I like seeing him.
He just seemed like he kind of didn't have anything to do. He was just sort of floating around. Just like, hey, look, remember Jon Favreau? He saved the Star Wars or something. People
he
like
saved
him for
Marvel.
that.
He saved Star Wars, and now, hey, Jon Favreau needs to like keep his like SAG card active. All right, I'll start in the Spider-Man movie.
Yeah, I could take or leave them. Who else? Yeah, I mean, I liked all that stuff.
How did you like Benedict Cumberbatch's over?
Oh God, I still hate him. I still don't like
Strange.
I still don't like Doctor Strange the way they've done him in this whole world. I mean, he's a little more tolerable now that he's kind of more serious. Because I think in his solo movie, he's basically Tony Stark. And everyone else is the serious person who's like, Doctor Strange, you need to be more serious. And he's like, no, I'm a silly prankster. Ha 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 ha. And it's like, this isn't anything like the Doctor Strange I read when I was a child. What the fuck? And then in this, he has to be the adult and the serious person, so that helps tone down a lot of the things I didn't like about his character in the other movies. And Benedict Wong as Wong, always good to see. Even though like Wong was just Doctor Strange's butler in the comics, and in this he's Sorcerer Supreme. So that I think Wong has had the greatest glow up of any like insignificant Marvel side character.
God damn it, Wong! Why do you keep showing up in shit? Yeah. I like it, I find their version of Flash Thompson, like, if you watch Homecoming, you'd probably find him really annoying, but because he's the kid from
Grand Budapest
Hotel, I'm like, you get your money, dude. And he's finally blonde in this movie. I was like, all right, okay. There you go, Flash Thompson. And the whole thing about him loving Spider-Man but hating Peter Parker, like, I'm like, yes, it's so satisfying to see that. I still love it. But anyway, yeah, the cast dynamic, especially between the main three, is really good. What did you think about the overabundance of villains in this?
I thought it was fine. It's when we were talking about The Matrix earlier, I asked if you'd seen the first three. if you watch The Matrix Resurrections without having seen the first 3 movies, it will make absolutely no sense whatsoever. It'll be totally incomprehensible. And in some sense, I think this movie would also be totally incomprehensible if you weren't at least passingly familiar with Sam Raimi's first 3 Spider-Man movies and the Mark Webb Spider-Man movies.
Yeah.
Because they throw so many characters at you, relying on the fact that you already know who they are to explain everything. Because they're not going to reintroduce them. They're not going to reintroduce 5 villains, 2 other Peter Parkers, and a whole bunch of other shit. It's like, you just got to know. It's a Spider-Man movie for Spider-Man fans in the sense that, like, you need to have a working knowledge of Spider-Man shit in order to get anything out of this, which is, you know, great if you love Spider-Man, and kind of sucks if you've never seen a superhero movie before. And you're like, oh, I've heard this one's good. Maybe I should try a superhero movie for once. And then you go in, you're like, what the fuck is this? I hate this. I hate everyone. Fuck all you people who are clapping. Go kill yourselves. And then you go back to watching, like, I don't know, Food
Licorice
Network.
Pizza. Just kidding.
Or Licorice Pizza.
No, that's so funny. It's like as soon as they introduce like multiverse into it, the person who's never seen a single superhero movie is like, "Fuck this! I'm out of here." Just leaves
That's
the
what it's
theater.
like. Like if you've never read a superhero comic book before, even though they're really goofy, sometimes it's better to start with the ones from like the 1960s or before. Because if you just go into your comic shop and crack open a Spider-Man comic book written, 2 months ago, you'll be like, what the fuck is going on? I don't understand a goddamn thing. But you go back to the 1960s and you're like, ah, yes, he is Spider-Man. This is his bad guy that he's meeting for the first time. I wonder what will happen.
I remember Spider-Man number 3. He's fighting Dr. Octopus, and Dr. Octopus beats him. And he just is like, I can't do this anymore. I'm never gonna be Spider-Man again. And then the Human Torch shows up and is like, yeah, we had our own difficulties, but we worked through it. Like, we always found a way to overcome adversity. And then the Human Torch is supposed to fight Dr. Octopus because at that time, the Fantastic Four were like more popular than Spider-Man.
Yep.
And then
Which
Spider-Man
is
ends up
insane
using.
to think about.
I know. It's crazy to think that like they had to use the Fantastic Four to boost readership for the first Spider-Man comic. It's just, oh my god.
And they later used Spider-Man to boost readership for Doctor Strange.
Both Steve Ditko.
Yeah,
So I guess it makes sense.
Yeah, well, because pretty early on in Doctor Strange's original run with Steve Ditko, there was at least like 1, if not 2, Spider-Man team-ups.
That's the other thing is like all 3 of these Spider-Man movies with Tom Holland, they don't really feel like Spider-Man movies. They're more like Marvel team-up featuring Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Because like the first one had Tony Stark doing like a lot of heavy lifting. And then the second one had Nick Fury in it and like Mysterio as the good guy / bad guy. It's just like, okay, what about, and then in this one, we have Doctor Strange, which is the most Marvel team-up-y of all of them. Because it's like, oh, yay, it's Doctor Strange, It's the Steve Ditko movie. Why isn't this being directed by Sam Raimi, who's going to be doing 2 Steve Ditko properties now? But
yeah, I mean, I liked possessing a working knowledge of Spider-Man and having seen the other movies.
Yes.
I mean, I liked seeing all these familiar faces, and I like the Sinister. I've always liked the Sinister Six as a
concept,
and as an enemy for Spider-Man to face.
Yeah.
Because like I have a paperback lying around somewhere that has, Spider-Man Annual #1 in there, which is where the Sinister Six first appears.
Yeah.
And they're a fun group of villains. Although they traded out like most of the animal ones for like cooler enemies. like Electro. Or no, Electro's in it, but I think they traded out like Scorpion and Rhino.
Brought in
Green
Kraven
Goblin.
the Hunter, Vulture, which they could have brought Vulture in.
They
but
could have, but I'm glad they didn't, because yeah.
You don't want to see Michael Keaton as the Vulture again?
Not
I guess you never
really.
did see him as the Vulture.
I want to see fucking John Malkovich as the Vulture. That's what I want.
Spider-Man, your end is coming soon. Oh my
But
God,
yeah,
that
and
would
it's
be
like,
good.
I mean, it also gets to take advantage of like a lot of the amazing casting that Sam Raimi did. Like Alfred Molina's always great.
Yeah.
Willem Dafoe is one of the greatest actors who's ever lived. Thomas Hayden Church is like a really good, really underrated character actor.
Yeah. Although he was sleepwalking in this.
Oh yeah. Well, I don't know if they
He's-
like. I don't know why he wasn't in it more. Like why they had the CGI Sandman instead of just having him walk around. Because it's like, it seems like you could save a lot of money, but maybe they only had him for a day, so they could only show his face at the very end.
I think he came in just to do voice work, and he came in for the voice
That's
work,
too
and
bad,
he came in
'cause
for
he's
a
really
1-day
good.
shooting.
Like, Thomas Hayden Church generally is really good. Like, if you've ever seen Sideways, he's great in
yeah, he's
that.
good in Sideways. Yeah, he's good in Spider-Man 3. Like the movie's
Oh,
not very
yeah,
good,
he's really good
but
in
he's
Spider-Man
really good
3.
Like, there's a reason they brought him back, and there's a lot of culminations of storylines in this. But yeah, there's him and the Lizard. I feel like was like, if you look at the shots of Rhys-Ifan, is that how you pronounce it?
I think it's Reese Ifans or something.
If the kicker from The Replacements, if you
The roommate from Notting
roommate.
Hill.
this yogurt tastes funny.
This yogurt tastes funny.
That's not
'Cause it's
yogurt,
mayonnaise.
that's mayonnaise.
Oh.
One of my favorites, Hugh Grant's Hugh Grant's like different way of pronunciating words, which I actually appreciate more now than ever. But he clearly was in for like an hour of shooting, because
Oh, yeah.
the only shots of him in it that were not him as a lizard was like a close up from an angle, and then another close up from an angle, and it's like, okay,
And
clearly
that CGI lizard is hideous. It looks so horrifically fake.
yeah, it's it's bad.
Yeah.
It's bad. Well, even like the sand simulations they did for Sandman, it's like, okay, they don't look terrible, but they're not amazing. This was one expensive movie.
Oh yeah. And there's a lot of
Bring
shit
all
that does
back.
look good. Like a lot of the special effects does look really good, but
Yeah.
there's a lot that really doesn't. Where it's like, I feel like you could have cut costs if you could have had these actors for more time. But it seemed like they were just like, oh, we only have Reese Ifans for 3
day.
hours. We got to get everything we can in 3 hours. And it's like, oh, Thomas Hayden Church, he can do voice work, but he's only got like, an hour of FaceTime, so we can't waste it.
Did you see the thing they were talking about, all of the characters or all of the villains, and like it came out that Willem Dafoe was like, I don't want to be in for a cameo. I want an actual role in this movie. He was like, he wasn't just going to come back if it was just like a cameo appearance, blink and you miss it type thing. And then Alfred Molina was just like, I'm just here for the money. So you can actually go down the line of villains and kind of like put in order who was dedicated to this movie and how much dedication they put. So like to me, obviously Willem Dafoe is at the top, because not only does his character have an arc, like his villain character has an arc,
He's
but
also the main villain.
he also ends up being the main villain, which is very fitting for Spider-Man, and then Jamie Foxx, like, he looks like he wanted to redeem his performance in Amazing Spider-Man 2, which I didn't find that bad, but The Amazing Spider-Man 2 has such a negative reception, and actually I absolutely hate that movie.
Oh yeah,
Jamie
that
Foxx
movie
was
is ridiculously bad.
so bad. I can't even believe it, it is related to The Matrix Resurrection in a way. Which I'll say later, but Jamie Foxx clearly wanted to like redeem himself, because he's all in. And then to me, Alfred Molina, like you said, Alfred Molina is always good, even if he's just collecting a paycheck.
Yeah, he's a consummate professional.
Yeah, and his Dr. Octopus in this movie, to me, is not the same Dr. Octopus that I saw in Spider-Man 2. This Dr. Octopus, it's like when Mark Hamill was like, oh, I had to play Jake Skywalker in episode 8. I'm like, he's playing Jake Octavius in this movie, where there's just enough overlap, and there's a couple of scenes where you feel like it's really coming through. But other than that, it's almost like he's like a little bit too comedic and too jokey. in a couple of scenes where I'm like, nah, this is, Alfred Molina clearly didn't fight for this.
Yeah, I mean, none of the characters really quite feel like themselves in their original incarnations, but
Yeah.
it's what it is. I mean, they're sort of like they're all like shorthand composite versions of the characters that we knew from those older movies.
And you're hoping that enough of the, like, if I hadn't watched Spider-Man 2 like earlier this year, I'd probably be like, oh, that was a pretty accurate portrayal. But like, I had just watched it, and like, I very much know how good that, like, I know how much effort Alfred Molina put into that role to like almost like a Shakespearean level tragic character. And then to come in here and he's like making all of these Spider-Man jokes and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, what? Like,
yeah,
$20 bill joke maybe, but.
The Doc Ock from Spider-Man 2 comes through kind of at the end.
Yeah.
But yeah, for most of the movie, it's just a construct of the writers to keep the plot moving.
Which I have.
And fan service.
I I'm something of a scientist myself.
Oh, the fan service in this movie was so gratuitous that it like broke my threshold for hating fan service to where I just didn't care anymore.
That was the moment when they do, he says, and they cut to him. And like, God bless it. I don't know if it was just like the director felt like he had to put in this meme, or if Willem Dafoe was like, I'm a meme on the internet.
I'm something of a meme.
I'm something of a meme actor myself. And I was just like, I don't know whose idea it was. That was like, I think there were a lot of people in the audience who like actively cheered that. I just went into my hands and groaned and groaned. I was like, that's a little too gratuitous. Although when he sends the tree over and it's like, so is that some sort of like mutant tree thing? And it's like Jamie Foxx was like, no kid, it's just a tree. It's like, I like that. It's a nice touch. So yeah, and then I feel like Thomas Hayden Church, like he does a good job, but he clearly did not care.
Phoned it in.
Yeah, and the same with Reese Ifen. I think he was just like, I will give my performance, but like I don't remember the Amazing Spider-Man 1 that well. I don't remember the Lizard being that chatty. I thought he was not. I thought it was much more just like bad Hulk dude. But I really
he was more like, I remember him being more like bad Hulk dude. I mean, he's very chatty as Doc Connors, but once he's a lizard, he's just like, I'm a lizard. Oh, your suit looks like a basketball.
I actually like the Amazing Spider-Man suit, and then when in Amazing Spider-Man 2 they change it to the like more traditional suit, and I was like, why? The only good thing you had going, well, turns out the only other good thing they had going for you in that movie, you decide to change to be like retrograde and retroactive. Did you want? And then I was going to mention J. Jonah Jameson in this. They bring back everyone's favorite, whose name J.K. Simmons, to be Alex Jones. Oh, I mean J. Jonah
I was going to say, why did they lean so hard into the Alex Jones thing? Like if you've ever watched like 5 seconds of InfoWars, like they ripped off his entire aesthetic, like the camera angles, the set, the weird brain supplements, like everything. It's pure Alex Jones. I'm like, why did they do that? And then they even used conspiracy theorist as like a pejorative. It's like, what is going on?
Yeah, I think because they did that at the end. I thought it was just lazy when they did that at the end of Far From Home, because that's when he first appears. It's like, there you have it. And it's, it's like that meme moment where everyone in the theater like loses their mind because they're like, oh man, like the guy who really, really fucking loved his role in the original Spider-Man movies is back. But I was like, but it's lazy because he's bald. Like, I know J.K. Simmons is bald, but J. Jonah Jameson has hair. And then I was reading some other things and they're like, oh no, he's supposed to be like Alex Jones. And the only parallel I can make is that they're trying to update it because, like, even though we have tabloid
new
news,
media and stuff.
Exactly. It's the only thing I can think of is, like, most kids, if you're like, oh, yeah, the tabloid presses, they're going to be like, what's that? Because no one's looking at, like, they only sell tabloid prices at grocery stores these days.
They only sell tabloids in the UK, where that is their only source of news, apparently.
No, the Sun. No, the Daily Sun. So it kind of makes sense because the Daily Bugle I always thought the Daily Bugle was like a reputable news source or a reputable news source.
Yeah, that's what I thought. It was supposed to be like kind of a main street, like I don't know, like not quite
like the
New York Times, but like one notch below.
What is it? The New York. What's the other one? They have the New York Times and they have like the New York Post.
I guess it's like the Post because the Post is kind of a tabloid.
Post, yeah.
The Post is a little tabloidy, so yeah, I guess.
Yeah. Spider-Man is having sex with the lizard. News at 11. Yeah.
It's a menace.
But yeah, did it feel good seeing J.K. Simmons back, or was it just kind of sad?
It was just whatever.
Yeah, I felt kind of sad when I saw him at the end of Far From Home. I was like, oh.
I mean, I think it's more it's always fun seeing J.K. Simmons in front of a camera, but I think it's more this rendition of J. Jonah Jameson where they try to update everything for the era we're living in, where it's like he's not a newsman anymore. He's now like a podcaster or something.
Yeah, he's not.
I mean, I'm surprised they didn't make him a Let's Play streamer or something. Like he's playing League of Legends while ranting about Spider-Man.
Well, I get, but like it does make a lot of sense to me that he's like that they lean into the Alex Jones, like, you know, the whatever. I was gonna say the Daily Beast thing, but it makes sense to me because like there was a little bit of that. J. Jonah Jameson would be on TV before, but yeah, it's an interesting way of doing it. You know, I don't mind.
Why not just have him on CNN?
Yeah, and also it just seems like a waste of your J.K. Simmons also, which is kind of weird. Especially like, again, I'm going to be making a lot of parallels to Spider-Man 2 because everyone's like, this is the best Spider-Man movie since Spider-Man 2. And I'm like, well. So, and a lot of people are like, oh, it's better than Spider-Man 2.
Not for the reasons you think.
Yeah, no. But so like, yeah, I feel like he was an element that they just kept in there. Kind of like they had so having not seen the other two movies, the scene where Parker goes back to high school and you see those three guys just standing there, where you just like completely lost as to why they had such a long scene with them.
No, I figured they were important in the first movie, at least. Like, you're not going to have Hannibal Buress for just one scene in the third movie. He was probably doing something in the first one. Same thing with JB Smoove, who now just he doesn't even act anymore, really. He just like he's just himself. He just like, well, yeah, he's just himself, like stepping in poop in commercials
and chilling with Halle Berry on the side.
Yep,
in those commercials, yeah. JB Smoove and Darren Star, I don't know, the white teacher. They were in Homecoming and they were also in Far From Home. Hannibal Buress, I don't think was in Far From Home, but he was like the PE teacher who put on the Captain America video. So I was like, this is good for fans of the characters, but this scene just kind of slows the movie down to me.
I thought it was fine because the movie, I think, does a good job of setting up like how the world is reacting to finding out that Peter Parker is Spider-Man.
Right.
And how that's twisted all of his relationships with people, even like people close to him, but also people who are just kind of like acquaintances, and how like even they are like just all up in his business all of a sudden.
Yeah, and they'll have to take sides and everything like that too.
Yeah. Which is like, I think like their scene, while it was good for if you like their characters in the other movies, I mean, it still serves a purpose, I think, of like hitting home how, okay, like Peter Parker's life is an absolute shit show now, where like there's this weird, like he's become a culture war issue, and everywhere he goes, he just has to deal with this crap, and he hates it.
I don't know. I just like, I already have problems with the script, especially how long it takes for the movie to get going. And like, if I had to take scissors to any scene, as much as I like those guys, I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna snip, snip. I know I can get this across without that moment.
I mean, this movie is long as hell.
2.5 hours. No, more than that. It's about that. 148 minutes. So let's see. We talked about villains. What did you think about the script? I'm like going down the line before we get to spoiler stuff, unless you want to just get into spoilers.
Let's just get into spoilers.
All right. Well, I do want to know. Okay. All right. Let's get into spoilers. What did you think about the script?
Like I said, it relies a lot on you knowing everything about Spider-Man to actually like make sense.
Yeah. I feel like it also relies a lot on contrivances that I didn't 100%. Like, I felt like it was
Elaborate.
I felt like it was sloppy in that sense. So, like, some of it, okay. I have a lot of problems with I don't like the script of the movie. I think the direction is pretty good, but I think what makes it really good are the performances. So by contrivances, I guess it's probably a bad word, but I feel like there was a lot of like go from point A to point B, back to point A to point C, back to point B to point D, back to point A to point, and it wasn't as like tight as it could be. And then contrivance wise, like the fact that Peter, like after he finds out, like the main reason he wants to undo everything takes a while to establish. It's not just like everyone knows who I am. It's like everyone knows who I am. And like, I don't have any privacy, but more specifically, all of my friends can't get into college now because they can't get into college. Let me erase everyone's mind. Oh, you mean I could just appeal directly to the board? Oh, well, let me go appeal to the board. Oh, hey, look, there's Dr. Octopus. That kind of thing. Or like, they don't really bring Dr. Octopus anywhere. It's just like Doctor Strange moves everyone to where they need to be. And then after they start collecting everyone, then out of nowhere, Aunt May is just like, we need to help everyone, Peter. Like, we do? Where was this in the previous two movies and this one? Like, so now we have a change of character to make sure that, like, to, like, show, like, oh, now we can get, Willem Dafoe into the movie, and he's a good guy, and then he's a bad guy. And that part makes sense. The part where Willem Dafoe turns, like, that makes sense. But, like, that's what I mean by contrivances. And, like, the first 2/3 of the movie feel like it's like going in circles for me a lot. And I did see it twice.
Yeah,
so the second time it didn't feel quite as much. Like they do couch things better, but it doesn't feel like the movie moves as efficiently as it could, especially with how long it is. It feels like it's almost a half an hour before we even get to Doctor Strange. Like in order to get to the main conflict of the movie, we have to go through all of this stuff when really you could have established it you could have established it a lot faster and a lot more efficiently, and just get into the meat of it. Because like I don't care about like all of the, like there's a lot of stuff in the beginning that I don't care about. Like I don't care about Spider-Man and MJ swinging through New York and then swinging in the sewer, and then like getting revealed to be like naked with MJ in his room with Happy, even though that's funny.
I guess. I mean,
like all of these things, like, okay, maybe two of them. Like we can cut this down. We can make it.
Part of me is like,
faster.
You can't take for granted like the emotional stakes of what's going on. You still have to like do the work to establish that they're there, because otherwise. I mean, I guess you could just cut straight to Peter Parker going to Doctor Strange and be like, hey, can you make everyone forget? But, like, I think you need to hammer home, like, there is a reason he's going to such extreme lengths, or why he feels he has to. It is undercut a little bit when Doctor Strange is like, why didn't you just call the admissions office? And he's like, oh, I could do that? And he's like, what? You just made me, like, blow up the universe before you called the admissions office?
You made me change the world without their consent.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and that's and again, the only reason that they have him go to find the admissions officer is so we can then introduce Dr. Octopus and the Green Goblin, And like that's what I mean. Like that's it doesn't necessarily serve that other purpose, especially by the end
but
of
that's
the
what
movie
happens when you have this like
person's
time travel
I will talk to the board about you.
multiverse
You're a
bullshit
hero. Like
storyline.
What is that? Like wow.
A lot of actions end up getting wiped away in order to tie up the plot because the fabric of reality has been spun out of control to where like, a lot of stuff will in retrospect seem like a waste. I mean, I guess getting into spoilers a little bit, like, Doctor Strange does eventually do a spell that solves everything, but it makes everyone forget that Peter Parker was Spider-Man. And a side effect of that is a lot of people just have no memory of Peter Parker, which makes no sense to me.
No, it's not even that. So, okay, because I had to think about this a lot because it felt like the beginning and the end, like the beginning spell with Strange and the end spell with Strange were exactly the same. And so I just basically watched 2 hours of really cool action scenes that had the small lesson of when something starts, you don't interrupt it. But the idea is, okay, because all of the Spider-Man movies are about responsibility. And so in this one, Peter is like, okay, I want everyone to forget that I'm Spider-Man first. And Strange is like, okay, well, I'll forget too. And then Peter's like, oh, maybe I should have asked more questions. Like, yeah, Peter, maybe you should have. At the end of the movie, he wants everyone to forget that Peter Parker exists. That's the difference. So that's why when he runs into MJ...
What? No, he said forget that Peter Parker is Spider-Man.
In the beginning. In the end of the movie, he says, I want everyone to forget that Peter Parker exists.
What?
Yeah. Yeah, because if everyone forgets that Peter Parker exists in this universe, it stops the event from happening. Because then if you say, oh, I want everyone to forget that, like, I guess if the original spell could not be undone, but by reversing, let me see here. Let's see. I have the Wikipedia entry up, but I remember that it was specifically, he asks, because it wasn't until the second time I saw it that I realized like the spell, like the bomb exploding the spell box caused the spell splitting to start again. And I was like, oh, okay, that's why they didn't just push the button. But he says, but he does say like, I want everyone to forget that Peter Parker exists. That's why Happy doesn't remember him. That's why MJ and Ned don't remember him, because he's like, he has to go even farther back to repair the issue.
I don't remember that being what he said.
I'm pretty sure that's what happened. I don't have my torrented version of it. I'm just kidding. I don't have a torrented version of the movie. The Wikipedia entry just says Parker realizes the only way to protect the multiverse is to erase himself from everyone's memory and requests that Strange do so, while promising MJ and Ned that he will find them again. The spell is cast and everyone returns to their respective universes, including spoilers, who leaves a piece of the spoiler. 2 weeks later, Parker visits MJ and leads to reintroduce himself, but decides against it. While mourning at May's grave, he has a conversation with Hogan and is inspired to carry on. So that's why also he can't use any of the... At the end, he has to make a new suit because none of the tech remembers him because Peter Parker doesn't exist. Did this just like ruin the movie a little bit for you?
A little bit, yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, he goes
I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah, he asks for... I mean, you could always see it again because, like I said, the last third of it is like chef's kiss.
I'm not spending more money on this movie, Matthew.
No, the Pirate Bay is calling you. But yeah, so that's what I don't remember why. Oh yeah, so that's the
I guess you're right. He did ask for people to forget Peter Parker.
Yeah, which again, if it weren't for magic, would open up a whole new can of worms. Like, what about his social security card, all of his grades? Like
how is he renting an apartment with no ID?
Exactly. Like I like how they have that at the very end. They're like, oh yeah, the GED book. I'm like, oh, that's a nice touch. And I'm like, he wouldn't need he's a genius. He could have gotten into MIT. He wouldn't need the GED manual, but whatever.
Well, maybe he's one of those smart kids who like does need to go through the study guide. He can't. He's not like gifted at multiple choice tests.
B and D look too similar to him. No, yeah, he can't use his Peter Tingle. That was the other thing when he kept saying his Peter Tingle. Did that? I mean, obviously you kind of realized what it was, but did that throw you off at all?
No.
Like, why are they calling it the Peter Tingle?
No, I just figured like it's the MCU. They come up with like more plain sounding names for everything. It's the spider sense, and then that just gets downgraded to some like, oh, it's a feeling.
Yeah, no, it was May called it the Peter Tingle, and Peter's like, please stop calling it that. So that's why, because a lot of it is just like Marissa Tomei brought a lot of character to Aunt May, especially in the other two, where like everyone was like, oh my god, your aunt's so hot. But anyway, so that was the idea behind the second spell. Because he had to go, like, if he had just let things go where he would just have to tell people again that he was Spider-Man, then it's like, okay, that sucks, but it's not that bad. But because he messed up, he has to take responsibility, and now he goes back even further. Like, in order to fix it, he has to do even more. He has to sacrifice even more.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. So, let's get into the spoilers that everyone already knows about, because anyone... Like, I knew that this was going to happen when the movie was announced, and it's the only reason I went to see it. What do you think of Toby and Andrew?
Oh, I was going to say, you mean the spoiler that Aunt May dies like Ben?
Oh, no.
Which opened up its own can of worms. What did I think of Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield? Let me tell you. So, Aunt May dies, and we're supposed to be very sad about this, and I was kind of sad. Because, again, I think the direction is a little bit uneven. I was kind of sad about that.
I was kind of sad, but I was excited because I knew what was going to happen next.
Well, I had a feeling what was going to happen next, which is actually, like, to their credit, they set it up really well for being just, like the first time I watched it, I was like, this is random. But they cut back to...
Yeah, I shouldn't say I knew, but I had a very strong
Your spider sense was tingling?
My spider sense was tingling that, okay,
Gabe tingle?
Now that Aunt May is dead, Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire are going to show up in this movie.
So, when Ned Leeds opens the portal and a thinner, weirder-looking Spider-Man walks in and takes off his mask, I was the loudest person in the audience cheering because I am that guy.
Oh, boy.
Oh, I was... Even now, I'm getting spider-sensed right now. Like, the hairs are raising. Just like imagining that mask coming off and they're like, what the heck? And I'm like, it's Peter Parker. And I don't like the Amazing Spider-Man movies.
Well, but Andrew Garfield was the best thing about them.
Oh, yeah. That's why Andrew Garfield was the best thing about the Amazing Spider-Man, and his costume was the second best. But I had also just finished watching, I had watched Tick, Tick, Boom earlier, which, again, Tick, Tick, Boom, not a great movie. Like, the script is horrible, but Andrew Garfield is really good in it. And so I was already excited. And then when I saw him there and she's like throwing bread, it's like, don't you have like the tingle thing? And he's like, not for bread. I was like, this is too good. It's like, prove that you're Spider-Man. Jumps on the roof and just like attaches to the wall. I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing. Oh my God. So that was my reaction when I saw Andrew Garfield. And I wasn't sure because everyone knew that they would show up, but I still wasn't sure because I felt like there would be a way for them to kind of get around it. And Andrew Garfield was so adamant that he wasn't showing up that I did get super excited when he finally appeared. So how did you feel when you saw Andrew Garfield? We'll do it Spider-Man by Spider-Man.
I was glad to see him. I think he got I think he got kind of a shitty deal with those movies because he and Emma Stone were great. The movies themselves were not. And then Amazing Spider-Man 2 is truly horrible. In spite of having a good cast.
Yeah.
It's just like, the script was trash, and then every good actor in that movie was directed to give the worst performance of their life. Like, Dane DeHaan was once a promising, like, character actor, and then after that just fell off the face of the earth.
God, Dane DeHaan as Harry Osborn was just like,
what if instead of
should have been perfect, and then he turned into like this weird looking goblin creature at the end, and I was like, fuck this.
Well, part of the issue was like all of Oscorp's science had to do with animals for some reason.
Yeah.
So he's like, I am a frog now or something. Electro fell into a vat of electric eels, and then he seemingly fell into a vat of like toads, radioactive frogs.
He fell into the Lord of the Rings.
What I was gonna say was it would have been amazing if they found some, like maybe swapping out Rhys Ifans for Dane DeHaan, and then he and like Norm and Harry Osborn from two different universes are in the same movie. And like, Willem Dafoe's like, who the fuck are you?
I'm your son. Well, they had to have the lizard because he's the only villain from The Amazing Spider-Man, and they needed full representation of the movies in there.
Well, no, they had Jamie Foxx.
From Spider-Man 2. Amazing Spider-Man 2. They didn't have anyone from the first movie. So that's why they have the lizard in there.
I mean, I guess.
I mean, honestly, it would have been best if they had what's his name come back, Paul Giamatti as the Rhino.
Oh my god, that.
But at least they
so
pay
bad.
lip service to him.
Yeah.
So okay, so you were just happy to see them then.
I was just happy to see him. Yeah, like I'm not, like I said, I don't like fan service. I don't like when they bring things back that I like just to win me over, because it's like, no, that's lazy and stupid. Do something.
I was afraid
interesting.
that this would be that.
Yeah. But like the thing with this movie is there is so much fan service and it is so gratuitous that it basically becomes the movie itself, and I don't have a problem with it anymore. Because it's like there's so much fan service that the movie wouldn't function without it. So in a weird way, it actually does a lot of work, whereas in like say Rogue One, it doesn't.
Right.
The fan service in Rogue One does no work whatsoever for the movie, whereas like this, because this movie is 100% fan service, it all does like some form of lifting.
So, okay, let me just quickly hit Tobey Maguire. When I saw him, I was like, oh my god, he looks super old. But,
oh yeah, super old.
But god damn
he's like
it.
50.
He's 46, and like he looks old, but I was so happy seeing him, and he like, and performance wise, it was like you said about the Matrix. Oh my god, can't think of the word.
Resurrections.
The Matrix Resurrections. Like seeing Tobey Maguire just jump so easily back into the Peter Parker role while also doing science in the movie. Even though he was dressed like a bum, I was like, oh, why is he dressed so badly? But like I felt so happy seeing him.
He's got the Harrison Ford like Blade Runner 2049 attire going. Like everyone's in the future, they have crazy clothes, and then he's just like in a ratty t-shirt and sweatpants.
I was worried because they were like, "Are you just gonna dress like a new church pastor or whatever, like a new age church pastor the whole time?" And I was like, "Yeah, a youth pastor." I was like, "Oh no, please tell me he has the suit." He has the suit, and he actually, I don't know if they got a body double or if they digitally shrunk his body, but he looked pretty good in the suit. I was like, "All right, Toby, you've been keeping in shape." You know. And like the sincerity of the character was all there. Like as far as Spider-Mans go, I feel like Andrew Garfield brought the most. Tobey Maguire brought the sincerity and like a good sense of realism, and he didn't get too corny. Like I feel like a lot of the times, like for example, Alfred Molina got really corny at times in the movie.
Yeah.
Tobey Maguire and like Andrew Garfield brought his sort of like his own sense of humor and sass, which is like charming. And then like Tom Holland had to hold down the movie. But in descending order, I think Andrew Garfield was sort of like, oh, he's amazing. Tobey Maguire is probably my favorite in general. But Tom Holland is kind of like upstaged by both of them.
Oh, absolutely. Because I think Tobey Maguire is everyone's favorite because of like just his movies are classics. But I think if you like reading Spider-Man comics, I would say Andrew Garfield's probably the best Spider-Man because he's
the best Spider-Man.
Yeah, because he's arguably the closest to how that character is actually written in the old stories. I think one of the things that it always made Spider-Man interesting is like how flawed he was as a person. Like he's selfish. He's kind of a dick. He's short-sighted, and he creates a lot of his own problems and then has to solve them.
Just like in this movie.
Yeah, just like in this movie. But like in this movie, you know, it's because like Tom Holland Spider-Man is like he's Samwise Gamgee. He just wants to save everyone all the time. Where it's like, traditionally Spider-Man creates his own problems by like trying to shortcut something in life, or like, well, what if I like,
Yeah.
like, you know what? I don't like this guy actually. Fuck you, Flash. And then somehow like that ends up like coming back to bite him.
And suddenly Aunt May is dead, and it's like, God damn it, what did I do? Well, no, that happened
well, it's
here.
it's like the money thing in the first one, where it's like he's like, I missed the part where that's my problem. He lets the robber go, and the robber kills his uncle. Like that's the shit that happens to Spider-Man when he messes up. Mm-hmm. And yeah, Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man was kind of a dick. Like he would beat up his enemies and then make fun of them. Which is like, I like this. This is how Spider-Man's supposed to be.
I just the way that they all so I will say that the reason why in this movie it became a problem was because of Peter's selfishness. Like if he was just like, I want everyone to forget I'm Spider-Man, it's like, okay, that's fine. And then he's like, oh, but I don't want everyone to forget all these people. So that's the only thing that I'll say. Like he caused it because he wanted to do good too badly, but also
that's a true Spider-Man moment. Mm-hmm. But everything after that is like, no, Mr. Frodo, we have to do this.
Yeah.
And then it's just like, oh no, Sam, what have you done? Now all the bad guys are on the loose.
All the bad guys are out. Norman Osborn is back. So I'm gonna go a bit non-linear here. Another spoiler is that they fix Dr. Octopus, and actually all of that stuff from when they fix him to the end of the movie, I love. Like regular Octopus, where he has his moment that's kind of like a mirror from Spider-Man 2, where he's just like, the voices in my head. Silence. I'm like, okay, it's not as good as Spider-Man 2, but it's still fun. And like that character, like a good version of Octopus is so much fun to watch. Yeah. And then at the end of the movie, when you're like, oh my God, what's going to happen? And Octopus comes back, and like, I don't know if anyone in the theater was fooled by like, oh my God, is he going to be a bad guy? I was like, no, this bastard's going to help him out. And then
everyone knows he's coming in to save the day.
Yeah. And then he holds the arc reactor, and it's just like that was one of those culminations. And this is why I think the fan service is really good in this. When he like is holding the arc reactor, if you know everything about what's been going on in the Marvel universe, or even just like watch the first Iron Man movie, and he's like, the power of the sun in the palm of my hand. It's like, his character arc is complete. The dream is over. And then the one thing they missed, when he goes and he sees Peter, he's like, Peter Parker, how are you doing? He's like, oh, I'm trying to do better. You know what he needed to say? Peter Parker, brilliant but lazy. Like, that would have been, boom! That's all the fan service I need, ladies and gentlemen. Put this thing to bed. That would have been perfect. And I can't believe they missed that. Like, they have the damn meme line. They've got all three Spider-Men pointing at each other and arguing, but they don't have brilliant but lazy. That was the one thing they were missing. But yeah, all of that stuff at the end there, that was great. And yeah, like I know I'm nerding out right now, so you can rein it in anytime, but the moment when like they had a really like jokey Marvel-y moment that could have been like really cringy when Ned is like, so Tobey Maguire, Peter, you have a best friend? And he's like, I did once. He died in my arms after trying to kill me, or whatever he says. Like Tobey, like there could have been a way where like if it were Doctor Strange the movie, it would have been kind of like this jokey like, I did once, but I killed him and he died in my arms, and it was hilarious, But in this, like, Tobey Maguire is just so like Shakespearean about it, and like so like raw, and like, I'm gonna play this 100% seriously, and like Ned is just like freaked the fuck out, and then they just kind of cut back to Andrew Garfield, and he's just like, okay, this got tense really fast. Like that was one of those comedy moments that played dramatically, because like if you're a fan of the movies, you're like you can feel the pain in Peter, but also it works comedically. And then at the end, when Ned's like, I promise I won't become an evil villain, and Andrew Garfield just adds that little cherry on top by slapping him on the side. I was like, oh, so good. Andrew Garfield's so good in this.
I know.
Like his redemption too in the movie. That's right. So the fan service works because it's not just bringing these people back to show them and then just do nothing with them.
It's the whole movie.
Well, every time one of these characters comes in, there's some level of redemption that needs to be achieved. Like there's something that needs to be closed. So like Willem Dafoe they finally cure him, right? And Andrew Garfield finally rescues his love. He rescues Spider-Man rescues Spider-Man's love and doesn't cause her to die. And it's not even like her falling. Like, I feel like I don't know if you got it this way, but I don't feel like it was just her falling and him saving her. Like, that was not cathartic. It was the cut back to Andrew Garfield as he's like, just like tearing up and like he realizes, he doesn't need to be bitter anymore. I was like, okay, that's great right there.
Mm-hmm.
And then like the Peter from this version of Peter like beating up the Goblin and he's about to kill him, and like Toby Peter like goes in and he's like, "This isn't the way, man. It's not worth it." And it's like that moment there, it's like perfect. I was like, sorry. That's why because of all the like even Flint Marko, the Sandman, gets his redemption. Not only is he's no longer sand, he's a normal person and he can be with his daughter again. Like that's great. And then Jamie Foxx being able to look Peter in the eye and be like, "I thought you was black." And it's like, nice. I thought that was funny.
From Queens, you help poor people. I just thought you were black. That's all.
Which, like, of course, all of the fans out in the audience are like, Miles Morales. But then, like, you could just take it at face value and be like, yeah, that's kind of funny. It's charming.
Yeah.
And like the fact that like they each brought their own thing to the fight, but the thing that ties it together, because you have to tie it back to the main Spider-Man character.
Yeah, you can't have everyone else just overshadow Tom Holland. Otherwise you'll have people wondering, like, why can't we just have 50-year-old Tobey Maguire back as Spider-Man or something?
Dude, if they had, if you put 50-year-old Tobey Maguire and 50-year-old Tom Hardy in a Spider-Man Venom movie, I'm down. I'm in 100%.
Well, but he already fought Topher Grace.
It's fine. You can restart the canon.
Just have Sam Raimi direct a new Spider-Man movie. We'll have Bruce Campbell as Eddie Brock. Everyone will be old. Bruce Campbell's Eddie Brock.
No, Bruce Campbell as Kraven the Hunter.
Oh my god.
With a really bad fake accent. Oh man, it's so good. I know I touched on a lot of the fan servicey stuff that I loved in the movie, including I didn't say the thing about the back, but I'll let you talk for a little bit.
Oh, his back problems.
Yeah, which watching it in the theater with a chiropractor and him just like I'm enjoying the moment, but that is not correct.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that's right. So this is like, so I think the other thing is like the movie is intended to be a crowd pleaser. You're supposed to go in and just have a good time. Did you have a good time with this thing?
I did. I didn't hate it like I was worried I might. I mean, I think I never would have seen this movie if I didn't feel like Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire would show up in it.
When I said you should see Spider-Man, is that what you thought? Were you like, oh, those bastards are...
No, I thought of it beforehand.
Okay.
When the movie was starting to kind of near its release date, people were saying like, well, do you think like Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire will be in there? And I'm like, it would be neat if they were. I'll go see it because I feel like they will be. Marvel ain't slick. They're not good at hiding things like that. And what do you know? They were in the movie.
I was so happy that they were too. But yeah, go ahead.
But yeah, I mean, I enjoyed it quite a bit. And like even the stuff that had nothing to do with other Spider-Man movies or characters or actors that I still liked. I think, like everything I dislike about Tom Holland's Spider-Man was kind of scrubbed away to some degree. He was actually pretty charming. Like I said, his chemistry with Zendaya and the Filipino kid are like, it's great. They're a great little trio.
Mm-hmm.
And then, yeah, like Doctor Strange having to be the adult in the room, I think helps his character a lot and make him way less annoying than he is in his own solo movie.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, I thought technically it was pretty good. Obviously, there's so much money that went into this, and there's so much CGI that some of the CGI does look like shit, but a lot of it does look pretty immaculate as well. So I guess that's the trade-off. You know, like, I mean, the Lizard still looks like a Black Panther digital double, but
Yeah.
it
Lizard
is
looks
what
bad.
it is. That's the price you pay for those Doc Ock arms that they didn't want to build, so they just had CG ones.
Yeah.
Which is crazy that they built them for the Amazing Spider-Man 2. And that's
No,
why
they built
look
it
so
for
good.
Spider-Man 2.
Or, no, sorry, Spider-Man 2. And that's why they look so good.
Yes. Although these looked really good too.
They did look good, but at the cost of fucking the Lizard looking terrible.
Yeah.
And Sandman not looking that good either. You know, I think good chunks of it were a little over-edited. Like, I don't know why it takes 3 shots for Andrew Garfield to crawl across the ceiling and grab a cobweb. But in this movie, it does. It takes 3 shots for him to go from one end of the ceiling to the other end of the ceiling in a very small house, which is weird. But other parts where that could have been over-edited weren't, which I was happy about. Like, a lot of the high-flying CGI-driven action throughout the movie, really looks really good, has a good sense of dynamism to it, doesn't feel too choppy. You can comprehend what's going on. Like the fight with Doc Ock on the freeway.
That one's really good.
The
Statue
Spider-Man's
of
whole
Liberty is
fight
pretty
with
good.
Doctor Strange was really good.
That was cool. I liked that. Especially
That I think was the best action sequence in the movie, just on a technical level, not necessarily, and on an ideas level, not necessarily just because, I mean, obviously the Statue of Liberty steals the show just because of all of the people in it.
right. Which I have the only issue I have with that is that they should have differentiated Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man suit a little bit better, but they did it well enough that you didn't notice too much of a problem.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, I thought his fight with Doctor Strange was really, really good.
You know what's better than magic? Math. I was like, my brother's gonna love that line. I loved it. I thought that was clever too.
Yeah, but yeah, and then obviously, the Statue of Liberty scene at the end is a whole lot of fun. I think there is a lot of like kind of back and forth that goes nowhere in the middle of the movie when they're trying to figure out what the movie's themes are.
Right.
You know, it's like, well, we gotta cure these villains of their psychoses and stuff, and Aunt May's like, with great power comes great responsibility. Remember when Uncle Ben said that? And Tom Holland's like, who's Uncle Ben? He doesn't exist in this universe.
Yeah, let's go into this a little bit right now, just really fast. So, you know, we're introduced to this version of Spider-Man in Civil War, and he's already Spider-Man, and he's already doing stuff to help people, and you're like, okay, so Uncle Ben already died, so we don't have to worry about that. And then we have 2 fucking Spider-Man movies which have the same theme they're talking about responsibility and like, oh, Peter, you have to be responsible for your actions and this and that. Okay, fine. I'm assuming Uncle Ben is dead. And then in this movie, we basically have Spider-Man's origin story. Like, what the fuck? So, like, that whole time we were watching Spider-Man, it wasn't really Spider-Man's origin story. But now the Marvel Universe twist is, like, Aunt May is dead, and that's our new Spider-Man. Like it feels very reductionist. And then, at the end of the movie, he wears his original Spider-Man costume. I was like, what the fuck? This is why you don't have to watch Homecoming or Far From Home. Because this movie is literally the first movie. What? Like,
I know.
Oh my god, that drove. I was like, when I realized that, I was like, this is fucking, like, that was the one thing I was like, this is really stupid, but I still enjoyed it. And I'm happy because I don't ever have to watch Far From Home again. If anyone's ever like, oh yeah, the Spider-Man movies, I'm like, oh yeah, you mean No Way Home? Okay, let's just start it 2/3 of the way through. Let's do it. Like, also the Aunt May's death, I feel like I should have been like in tears emotionally, and there was just something that felt not quite compelling about that scene.
Marvel movies don't really have much weight to them, so I don't really get emotional about anything when I'm watching them.
The scene where, so 2 moments that I thought were really, I mean, aside from like Alfred Molina and Peter and Tobey Maguire sharing the scene for just one time, and I was like, this is so good. Or like Andrew Garfield saving Zendaya, I was like, this is so good. The other moment is like when he's with Strange and he's like, you got to make everyone forget me, sir. And he's like, don't call me sir. It's like, all right, thank you, Steven. He's like, it's still weird. And it's like, I know that's like coming back and it's like screenplay 101, but it worked well for me. And then at the very end, when he goes to tell MJ and Ned, and he just sees like MJ moves her hair and he sees the Band-Aid and he like all of the joy in his face just disappears. And he's like, oh, that's right. I can't bring her back into my world because if I do, she will die. That was also another like really powerful emotional moment for me. More than Aunt May dying, I should say. Like, I should be clear. Like, and Marissa Tomei is a great actress. And like, I kind of knew she was going to die when she was walking all funky. But like, for some reason, that moment just doesn't hit. And I don't know if it's just the use of shots or the Giacchino's score, which is generally pretty good. Like, I don't know exactly what happened that just it didn't connect the way that I feel like it should have.
Yeah.
As you can tell, I've given it a lot of thought.
I know. You're like, why doesn't this work? I just accept that it doesn't work for me. It's just like, whatever. It's some Marvel character diet. It's fine.
Yeah, but it's just like, it's unfortunate because like I do feel like even though this has Marvel holdovers, this feels more like a love letter to Sony Spider-Man stuff, because all of the Marvel stuff is stuff that's like the not as good stuff. But all the Sony stuff is the stuff that's like, it's cooking with gasoline. So that's why it's weird. And so that's why I dissect that moment, because like you have all of this time. And if you have to nail one moment in the movie, you want to nail that moment. Just like they do it in the first Spider-Man movie. Like, boom, Tobey Maguire sees Uncle Ben dead on the floor and he's like holding his body as he dies. And it's like, oh my God. Like it's, anyway. So on Mount Spidey-More, where does this fall for you? Like, what do you think is your favorite Spider-Man movie? And we'll go from there.
I mean, I think Spider-Man 1 and 2 are tied. I like them both a lot. And I have a hard time picking one over the other.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'd say this is like kind of, it's right. It's in the same ballpark. I like Spider-Man 3 quite a bit. I thought it was, despite being very flawed, I thought it was pretty solid in a lot of areas.
The fact that we still remember Flint Marko.
Yeah, like I said, Thomas Hayden Church is fantastic in that movie.
Yeah.
And I mean, so is everyone generally. I think it's more just that,
there's a big script problem in that one.
It's just a script problem, yeah. It didn't know how to portray like evil Peter Parker. I think that was part of it. That was the big one, actually. It's just like, how do we do evil Peter Parker? He likes jazz now.
It's the Hobbit of the Spider-Man trilogies. Just pacing wise, it's like a huge mess, because it's like, okay, so we have the new Goblin who fights Spider-Man, but then we wipe his memory, but then we bring his memory back when he fights Spider-Man. Then Spider-Man gets all bad and blows up the new Goblin. But then Spider-Man gets mad at his symbiote, gets rid of the symbiote. Then we have Venom. Then we have Venom and the Sandman teaming up for some reason, which they actually have a good reason. I just don't remember what it is. But like Venom is kind of like not necessarily working well, and like they have Gwen Stacy in there for some reason, and then like Peter like has a shower and remembers why he does what he does. I don't know. Alvin Sargent will always be like special to me because he wrote the screenplay for Spider-Man 2. But man, Spider-Man 3 is just a freaking mess.
Yeah.
It's just a mess of a movie. Yeah.
I've only seen Amazing Spider-Man once, but I do remember liking it. Amazing Spider-Man 2, it's one of the worst movies I've ever seen, so the less said about that, the better. So yeah, I don't know. I'd say this one ranks like maybe up there with, it's like in the same realm as like Spider-Man 3, Amazing Spider-Man 1, maybe a little better.
I'm kind of with you, except I would put this above Spider-Man 3. I'd say like it's like Spider-Man 2, I think it is my favorite Spider-Man movie. I think it always will be, because it, like, one, the performances are pretty fantastic across the board. The way that they develop Dr. Octopus as a villain is really good. The visual effects, the special effects, the way that it uses sort of like, the way that it mixes humor and emotional drama is really good. it also has the Spider-Man No More storyline, and every time they try to do one of these comic book storylines in the movies, like sometimes it works really well, but most times it doesn't. So the fact that they executed the Spider-Man No More storyline so well, I think like puts it up there. And it has like Danny Elfman's score for Spider-Man 1 and 2 are probably two of the best superhero scores of all time. I know all of you Superman the movie fans, you can come at me, but I think that there's something about Danny Elfman's Spider-Man score, like it's so good that when they bring it back in Spider-Man No Way Home, I'm like, I wish Danny Elfman had just scored all of the Spider-Man movies. Yeah. Just because that theme of responsibility is so good, and also just his general like Spider-Man main theme is really good. So like Spider-Man 2 will always probably always be the top. Spider-Man 1 I haven't seen in a long time, but I like it because of Tobey Maguire and Willem Dafoe. But I get that in this, and I get some Andrew Garfield, so I'd say the last third, like I said, the last third of this movie I think is like perfect for me. But you're right. I don't think it would be perfect if you're not a fan of the character in other regards, but hopefully it would be enough to encourage you to go out and watch those movies.
Yeah.
You must be in so much pain right now. You have no idea. I liked that moment too. Any moment with three Spider-Men interacting with each other is... So does
Are you okay? Yeah, I'll be fine. It's not the first time I've been stabbed.
So does it just like... I like how he like... they're like, oh yeah, you have to refill my cartridges. And like, what? You have to refill your cartridges? You don't have cartridges? Boom! What? It's like it comes naturally, so is it like shoot anywhere else? Like even though that was like a very gratuitous like sort of mumblecore scene, I like that a lot because it's just fun. Like you said, all of that fan servicey stuff. You've never been on it, but there's a Spider-Man ride in Universal Studios Orlando that's like a perfect culmination. Like every now and then, a theme park experience can be better than like anything else. And like the Spider-Man ride does it. The Pandora ride is like you can watch Avatar, the movie by James Cameron, but you're better off just going on the ride because it's like a very similar experience, but better because you don't have to deal with like 2.5 hours of plot that you've already seen.
Well, according to Martin Scorsese, this movie is a theme park ride. So,
which again, I think is like, you know what? People get upset at that, but like I consider Mission Impossible Fallout a theme park ride, and and you know what? There's nothing wrong with having a good time.
No, not at all.
There's a lot of people who look at Martin Scorsese and they're like, oh yeah, we should respect his opinion. But Martin Scorsese has also watched a lot of movies, and the movies that he likes a lot and will go back to a lot are probably not the same kind of movies as people who really like, you know, like this is a good movie for people who are big Spielberg fans. Mm-hmm. You know, if you're a Scorsese fan and you look at a movie like this, like you probably look at it more like Gabe looks at it. So
yeah, I mean, it is a fun theme park ride, and that's okay.
That is perfectly fine.
Not every movie has to be The Red Shoes or whatever Scorsese's favorite movie is.
Not every movie has to be Russian Ark.
I bet Red Shoes is Tarantino's favorite movie because it's about feet.
Feet. No, I think his favorite is My Left Foot. Ooh.
Oh, but that's a dude's foot.
I know, it's a dude's foot. That's like the alternate universe version of Tarantino where he's into men's feet instead of women's feet. He like comes through and he actually has a good haircut. It's like, anyway, the version. Who do you think like? So what's his name? Fellini always cast that one actor as like a version of himself. Who do you think Tarantino would cast as himself if he could?
Himself. He acts in his own movies.
But what if he couldn't cast himself? What if he's like, okay, I can't be myself. I gotta choose someone else to be the version of me. I gotta Fellini it. Who do you think?
Oh, okay. It would be Vincent Vega,
Michael Madsen, or John Travolta.
John Travolta. Thank you.
John Travolta. Now I want to see this movie. Tarantino on Tarantino, and it's just John Travolta as Quentin Tarantino.
Tarantino into the Tarantino verse.
Quentin Tarantino into the Quentin verse, and we get everyone else who has the name Quentin in it, but change their last names to start with a T. It's like, wait, what? We all wanted to see Kill, and there's like 8 different versions of Kill Bill, and like they bring back David Carradine, but instead it's like on his brother Robert Carradine, but they digitally impose David Carradine's face on it into the Tarantino verse.
The main character it's like Uma Thurman interacting with every Uma Thurman it's Uma Thurman and Samuel L. Jackson interacting with every version of themselves from every one of his movies.
What about Christoph Waltz? He's been in quite a few Tarantino movies. I guess he's only been in 2, huh? That wouldn't work.
Yeah, he's only been in 2.
But we could at least bring in a digital version of Robert Forster. Mm-hmm. And then you get De Niro and Pacino in the movie as well. But like we go like Michael Mann version where it's just like, choose any version of Pacino and De Niro in any movie and they're here. So. Inside Robert De Niro's head, where it's just the Irishman technology used and like De Niro interacts with all of his old characters. But they're all kind of samey because after a certain point, De Niro kind of just applied the same. Just quickly on Matrix, I want to call it Matrix Revelations. Matrix Resurrection and Amazing Spider-Man 2. Like, I'm sad we never got more Andrew Garfield Spider-Man movies. But but if you're telling me that I have to buy a ticket or many tickets to watch The Amazing Spider-Man 2, a movie that does not deserve my money, and that doesn't actually have that much Andrew Garfield in it, in order to see more Amazing Spider-Man movies, then I'm glad that we didn't have any more, because I don't believe that, like, I guess this is easy for me to say, but like, I don't believe that like I should go and support like a shit movie just for the chance at getting a better movie. Like that's insanity to me. So it's the same with the new Matrix movie. Like, I've seen a lot of sort of like uneven reviews. I'm going to check it out probably on HBO Max because I want to know if it's good. And I like shaggy looking Keanu Reeves. I think it's funny that he's like, oh, I'm just going to look like John Wick, but I'm playing Neo. Like, I associate Neo with that clean cut look.
I know, Neo's so clean cut, and now he's just all like haggard.
It's Blade Runner 2049 Keanu Reeves version. He's like, I'm not going to shave. That'd be funny if into the Keanu verse, and it's just like,
well, what's crazy in that
Neo,
movie is
Neo.
like when he's outside of the Matrix, he's completely clean shaven.
Is he?
Yeah, so he could have just been clean shaven for the whole movie.
The whole movie. I bet the way they did it is they shot all of the like inside stuff and then he shaved.
I've forgotten how to use a razor.
Whoa.
I know kung fu, but not how to shave.
I saw Sweeney Todd. Have you been to an AMC where they have the Nicole Kidman thing playing before it?
What?
So like Nicole Kidman does this like intro so that they can dim the lights properly. And like it starts with her like walking into the theater and she's like talking in voiceover and it's all her Australian accent. Excuse me. And then like at the very end of it, they like zoom in on her and she turns to the camera and she addresses the camera. So all of the voiceover is with her Australian accent. And then at the very end, she turns to the camera and she's like, because here they are. I'm like, wait, that's not your Australian accent. Why is this related?
So what is this? Is this like a lead-in for every movie that's shown at AMC or something?
Yes. So what they do is they still have the intro popcorn thing where it's like, please silence your phone for the movies. And then it's like, you know, a minute of just Coke advertisements. And then it cuts to like this film segment where they're like, oh, we're celebrating AMC because it's been in the movies for, 100 years now. So we hired Nicole Kidman to basically tell us why we love movies in voiceover with her Australian accent. Only for
if that was 90 minutes, it would win an Oscar. Why do we love movies? The Academy. Best Picture.
Why do we love... No, it wouldn't even necessarily just be like, why do we love movies? It's like, why do we love making movies? Seen by 5 people wins an Academy Award for Best Picture. But anyway, the thing you were saying about like when you can tell when they shot something versus when they had to do pickups or how they had their schedule, I always find funny. It's like, oh, these decisions we had to make after the fact and we kind of screwed ourselves. But yeah, so like again, I know Keanu Reeves was saying like, oh, I don't care if you see it in theaters or if you see it on HBO Max, but just fucking see the thing. And it's like, I agree. unless it's something like The Amazing Spider-Man 2, in which it's terrible.
Yep.
So if you, the audience, want to know whether a movie is worth watching or not, where can they go, Gabe?
You can go to underthewheels.com, where you can read my review of The Matrix Resurrections, one of the strangest movies I've seen in a while, for a variety of reasons. And we also have a lot of other cool stuff there. Like us on Facebook, subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can find the podcast on YouTube as well as Apple Podcasts and Stitcher. Send us an email at video@underthewheels.com. And yeah, I mean, any and all support is greatly appreciated.
Yeah, I agree. And, you know, also make sure if you are into movies, don't necessarily just wait for movies that are streaming. If it's something that you really like and it's not streaming yet, if it's something like The Last Duel, which did terrible, or if you wanted to see Steven Spielberg's version of West Side Story, like, you can't complain about the death, or if you wanted to see Licorice Pizza and it's doing terrible at the box office, like, you can't complain about a movie doing bad if you yourself have not supported it in some way. So go out, watch movies if you can. Theaters are relatively safe, or buy it on Amazon, or another platform where you have to pay money for it, because sometimes just watching, or watch it if it's a same day streaming like on HBO Max, make sure you're actually watching the damn thing, like The Suicide Squad, which is back on HBO Max. All right. Because I know that there are some people who are afraid to go to the movies, and I know The Last Duel is actually, yeah,
Damn.
especially with Omicron coming out. But Last Duel is actually, like, they're killing it on streaming platforms. But
on
a lot
Disney
of people,
Plus,
yeah, on Disney Plus outside of the U.S. But you can buy it. You can buy it from Amazon Prime right now.
Oh, okay.
Or if, like, a VPN wants to sponsor us, now would be a good time to do a sponsored segment where we could say, oh yeah, and set it to a different country and then use Disney Plus. But it's not going to happen. Anyway, the point is, go see these in theaters, because, you know, Last Night in Soho didn't do well. Last Duel didn't do well. I don't think The French Dispatch did particularly well. I actually really liked Spielberg's West Side Story, even though I don't like Ansel Elgort. That didn't do well at all. What else? The Suicide Squad didn't do very well. So, you know, people, you know, if you want a variety of movies at the theaters, make sure you keep on going out and watching them. On that note, I'm Matthew.
And I'm Gabe.
And you've just been Under the Wheels.
Have you seen Licorice Pizza yet?
I haven't. Did you?
It's amazing. But there's one scene where like that "How Jewish are you" thing like comes up, and it's pretty funny.
But you liked The Phantom Thread, right?
I did, but this is like Boogie Nights without the
boobies,
darkness of it.
Oh, so it's like his lightest feature. It's like kind of fun.
Yeah, it's just a really, really fun movie.
I hear the main girl in it's really good. I mean,
everyone's good.
I just found her kind of annoying in the previews, so I'm like, I hope I don't find her annoying.
I mean, everyone's good in like kind of a cartoonish way, in a very Paul Thomas Anderson, like classic Paul Thomas Anderson way.
So like classic, like prior to There Will Be Blood classic?
Prior to There Will Be Blood classic, yeah. Everyone's great in that kind of sense.
To be fair, I was kind of like, I never know where Paul Thomas Anderson is going to go next, so.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't think he would get a movie made after he did that one Joaquin Phoenix movie.
Vice.
Yeah, I didn't think he'd be able to get money for another movie. And then The Phantom Thread came out, and I was just like, man, I thought that thing was so exhausting for him to make that he just couldn't do another movie. But he's just like, oh, let me do a nice, fun return to form, I guess.
Yeah, I love it. It's really, really good.
Oh, did it hop onto your top 10 list?
I mean, it hopped onto my like top
5.
1. Consider the way this year's gone, it's probably the best movie I've seen.
Let me see. Why did I go here? I went to look at Licorice Pizza for some reason. But oh yeah, that's right. I wanted to look at the budget. Yeah. Yeah, he's smart. He's like, you know what? I know how much money I can get to make a. It's like the Coen brothers.
Mm-hmm.
They know how much money they can get to make a movie, and they're just like, yeah, that's how much was this? 35 million. Okay, so, and then how much was Inherent Vice? 20 million. Yeah, he's smart about that kind of stuff. 32 for The Master. Oh, hey, John C. Reilly's in it.
He has a very small cameo.
Hey, anytime John C. Reilly's in a Paul Thomas Anderson film, anytime Philip Seymour Hoffman's in a Thomas Paul Anderson film, it's fun.
Well, the thing with John C. Reilly is like if you blink and you'll miss him.
Love John C. Reilly. He's so great. I was like a while ago I rewatched Hard 8 and I was like, oh, John C. Reilly's so good. And then he's like, he does good voice work in like Wreck-It Ralph, even though the second one's absolute trash. Well, okay, it's not absolute trash, but like it's not nearly as good. But like John C. and like he's good in Step Brothers, which is kind of like you'd think would be like a throwaway movie, but he's like, yeah, he's still good. Like he has no business being as good or as charismatic as he actually is. Is what I'm saying.
Well, it's weird because I always thought of him as just kind of like this so comedic actor, but then he's been in Paul Thomas Anderson movies since the beginning, and he's like fantastic in every single one.
See, I don't know. Let's see. He was really good in Magnolia, even though like Magnolia is the one where I'm like, I don't fully understand. That's fine. Yeah, he was great in Hard 8. I haven't seen Boogie Nights, so I guess I can't really comment. Yeah, I just every time I try them, it's like that one movie where it's like, oh yeah, it's the movie, and it's like I know, but I don't know.
I don't feel like it, man.
I don't feel like it. I don't want to watch Marky Mark. I don't know. It's just like it's like the monkey on my back now. There's like a bunch of movies. Like I don't know if you ever feel like this, but they're like, oh yeah, you gotta see this movie, man. And it's like I don't know. It just feels like a
Avengers Endgame is slowly turning into that for me.
Yeah, where everyone keeps referencing it.
Remember an Endgame? No, I don't remember. Oh, did you also see The Matrix Resurrections?
I haven't yet. I read your review of it, and that put me on pause. Like I didn't read the full review. I kind of read the tagline, scrolled down, read what you gave it, and I was like, all right, I don't have to watch it immediately. But it does actually bring us to a good question that I'll bring up that I may bring up in when we talk about Spider-Man No Way Home, specifically about the Amazing Spider-Man 2.
Okay. I'll just say this. The Matrix Resurrections is maybe the most fascinating it's possible to be. Because it's so weird. So
my thing is like, is it even worth seeing? Because usually if you're like, I don't love it, but it's a witness, or like, I don't love it, but you should see it. Like, I usually put that as a witness, even if I'm like,
have you seen the first 3 Matrix movies?
I've seen the first 2. Everyone told me to avoid the third one. So I haven't seen Revolutions because like most people, I love the
second
first
one is the worst, by the way.
Okay,
the third one's better than the second.
The second well, go ahead.
If you've seen all 3 and you're really fascinated by the like layers of meaning woven into them, The Matrix Resurrections has a lot for you in spite of being kind of a lackluster movie.
I started watching Speed Racer because everyone is like, oh, it's like it's a misunderstood classic and everyone needs to see it. And I'm slowly coming to the realization that, possibly, the Wachowskis are just not very good at writing scripts.
Maybe. I don't know. I mean, the script for the first Matrix is pretty airtight.
The first Matrix is good, but then if you look at everything they've done since then, it's all kind of like, because I guess a lot of people really like Bound as well, but the second and third Matrix scripts are like, oh, the ideas are so good, but the execution is kind of blah.
Yeah, I mean that is how it is. The ideas are really great, but as movies, they're just kind of okay.
It's the same with Cloud Atlas. Like Tom Tykwer saves Cloud Atlas because the segments he directs are fantastic, and they have a really good balance of like quirk and charm and humor when needed. And then like the Wachowski segments are just like so like they're so self-serious and there's no charm and they're all the characters are boring and all the events are boring and it's like yeah, that's the problem with Cloud Atlas. Like they chose what you'd think would be the interesting segments because they have like the future segments, but it's like nope, give me the quirky like British comedy of what's his name, Jim Broadbent, or the sort of like the murder mystery of Halle Berry's character, or the sort of like the charming but like quaint Pride and Prejudice style romance of not Bob Wishaw. What's his name? Ben Winshaw. Of his, like all of those stories are great. Like the middle stories of the movie are great, but then it's just like the bookends are just terrible. And then there's Jupiter Ascending, which didn't do well. V for Vendetta, which everyone saw, and I was like, oh, it's very pretty to look at, but like everyone's like, the script kind of lost the meaning of the original, through line of the movie.
It's its own thing that I think is good in its own right. Yeah, I mean, also it has Jonathan Groff as Agent Smith, which is amazingly funny.
Oh, he's so good in everything.
Yep.
Like he plays as King George III in Hamilton, and he's like perfect. It's disgusting because he can't, like, he's spitting all of his lines, but like he sound like, if you've ever watched The Crown and you've heard those like those upper crust British accents, he like nails that perfectly, and he's just like, he steals the show.
He also steals the show in The Matrix Resurrections because his version of Agent Smith is like so flamboyant. It's incredible.
The whole cast, I look at the cast and I'm like, this is a pretty good cast. Like, I like Yahya Abdul-Mateen the third.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's always fun.
He seems like he'd be good in that. Who else is in it? Hold on, let me pull up the cast list. Like, I like the cast so much I can't think of anyone. Matrix.
Jada Pinkett Smith in old lady makeup. Chad Stahelski shows up as himself.
Does he?
Yeah.
Okay, maybe I spoke too soon because like we named the two ones that I like a lot, which is Yahya Abdul-Mateen the second. Oh, my bad. Yahya Abdul-Mateen the second and Jonathan Groff, and like Neil Patrick Harris is Neil Patrick Harris. Does he play as the new Oracle?
No.
Oh, okay, and then like I don't know, Priyanka Chopra. She's like whatever. She's fine.
She's just there.
Was Jessica Henwick any good?
She mumbles her lines a lot, and that coupled with her British accent makes her kind of hard to understand. Which I actually noted in my review. Her and the Merovingian both like have non-American accents and have a tendency to mumble. So it's like, what the fuck are they saying?
Did they? Oh, Christina Ricci's in it?
She has like a very brief cameo.
Oh, Chad Stahelski as Chad, Tiffany's husband. Oh. How was Carrie Ann Moss?
She's good. I mean, like both Neo and Trinity, they were very much. It's like wearing an old shirt, It's just like it's
comfortable.
It's comfortable. They both like felt at home in it.
Yeah.
In their respective parts.
Yeah, she's like Carrie Ann Moss. I guess she just kind of like backed off of acting, but like she's still good. I don't see her in stuff very often, but she was in Jessica Jones, and she was good in that. And she makes a blink and you miss it appearance in Daredevil, in one of the Daredevil seasons, one of the episodes. And like I'm just like, I miss Carrie Ann Moss. Like where's, or was it maybe it was Luke Cage? I don't know. I thought it was like the second season of Daredevil. She shows up as like, she's like the person who hires Jessica Jones. So she's like one of Jessica Jones's bosses. But like she has her own shit and like kills someone, and Jessica Jones has to like get her off of it and whatever and stuff. But yeah.
Speaking of that whole universe, should we get into Spider-Man?
Yeah, I'm ready if you are.
All right.